Today in math class, we're going to take care of practice test 2B. Mr. Shane's going to work through each and every one of the problems to give you an opportunity to follow along and make sure that you've got your skills honed in to be able to complete this on your own with what would be cumulative test 2A in tomorrow's class period. Number one says identify the subset of real numbers to which the number -4 belongs. When we're talking about subset of real numbers, first thing we're always going to write down is real numbers because it falls into that category each and every time. Because it's a negative number, it's going to be considered an integer. And because it's not an irrational number, it's a rational number, it falls into all three of those categories. Real, integer, and rational. Number two, use greater than, less than, or equal to compare the expression using the order of operations. Here, the first thing that you're going to do is look for any exponents that you might have. You've got 2 to the third power, which would be 2 times 2 times 2, 2 times 2 times 2. 2 times 2 is 4, times 2 is 8. So I'd have 9 minus 8 divided by 4 written as my next step. If I'm going to solve just on one side first and then come back and solve on the other side, I would do 8 divided by 4 next, which would be 2. I have 9 minus 2, which is 7 on this right-hand side. On the left-hand side, I don't have any exponents, but I do have parentheses that I need to solve, so this would be 3 plus 1. 3 plus 1 is 4, and I would have 12 divided by 4 minus 8 fourths written out as my next step. Now order of operations is something to divide before subtracting, so 12 divided by 4. 12 divided by 4 is going to give me 3, and now I've got minus 8 fourths. Now how do I go about solving this? I got to make sure that they're common denominators. So if I'm going to turn this into a 4, this would be 3 over 1 times 4. 1 times 4 is 4. 3 times 4, cross that out, would be 12 over 4. 12 fourths minus 8 fourths is going to give me 4 fourths, which is equal to 1. Now which one of those is larger? Obviously the 7, so our alligator eats the larger number. In number 3, it says use greater than, less than, or equal to compare the expressions. We're using the same set of operations, but here we've got symbols of inclusion to say there's parentheses and brackets. We're going to work at the innermost portion first. I'm going to do this left-hand side first. Inside of my brackets, inside of the parentheses, I've got 4 minus 1. 4 minus 1 is 3. And now that 3 is going to be squared, and minus 3 is still inside of the brackets. So we'll work on the innermost portion first, and then do the exponent. 3 times 3 is 9. 9 minus 3 is 6. And on the outside of our brackets now, all the way finished with those brackets, with each step, you've got 18 divided by 6. 18 divided by 6 is 3. On the right-hand side, you've got brackets over the entire problem. And inside that bracket, you got a set of parentheses. 5 minus 3 is 2. That 2 is going to maintain in those parentheses with a square. You've got 8 minus 2 squared times 2. Exponents would come next. 2 times 2 is 4. And now I would have, that's a minus sign, this is a multiplication sign. 4 times 2 is 8. And 8 minus 8 equals 0. Alligator eats a large number because 3 is greater than 0. Number 4, identify the variables and constants in the expression. 8 minus 6c. Constants are going to be our numbers, 8 and 6. 8 comma 6, the variable is going to be our letter that represents a number, c. Number 5, simplify 0.2 to the 4th power. Now here it's got a space for us to write this out so that we can properly, and now it's missing one, 0.2, properly think about the number of decimal places that we need to remember when we're multiplying by an exponent. Here I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 decimal places that I need to make sure are in my answer, and we can go about multiplying just by the digits themselves. So 2 times 2 is 4, times 2 is 8, times 2 is 16. My answer is going to be 16, but now I have 4 decimal places, so I'm going to start here and go 1, 2, 3, 4 places. 0.0016 would be correct for number 5. In number 6, it says 18 plus 3 to the third plus 16 divided by 2 to the third minus 20. It asks us to simplify. Again, we're using order of operations. Okay, so lesson 4, order of operations. Here it's pointing out that it's from lesson 4. If you need to use your textbook to refer to that, that's what this number with the parentheses means. Here you have a set of exponents that need to be solved, then our division problem, and then addition and subtraction. So let's start here and here. 3 to the third power. 3 times 3 is 9, times 3 is 27. 2 to the third power. 2 times 2 is 2, times 2 is 8. And I'm going to rewrite this. 18 plus 27 plus 16 divided by 8 minus 20. Next, I would take care of the division problem here. I have 16 divided by 8, that's 2. And I've got 18 plus 27 plus 16 sorry, not 16. 18 plus 27 plus 2 minus 20. So let's go and then add together all those positives. 27, 18, and 2. If I add those up, 2 and 8 is 10, and 7 is 17. Carry the 1. 1 plus 2 is 3, plus 1 is 4. I got 47 minus 20 equals 27. 27 would be our correct answer for number 6. 7. Simplify the expression in our absolute value. 2 minus 7 is going to get negative 5. But because it's in the absolute value symbols, you would turn negative 5 into a positive 5 as your final result. 8. X squared times x to the 6th times y to the 5th times y times x. Use the product property of exponents. In this, I'm going to circle all of the x's, and I'm going to put a different shape, a box, around all of the y's to understand which ones I need to be able to put together. When I've got the same base, I can add the exponents. So I got x squared, that's 2, x to the 6th, and x to the 1st. I got to remember, if nothing's written there, that there's a 1 up there. So x squared is 2, x to the 6th is 6, 2 plus 6 is 8, plus 1 is 9. I would have x to the 9th, and y is to the 5th and to the 1st, because there's nothing there. Y to the 5th plus 1 is y to the 6th. Number 9. Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, or our order of operations, to solve again with our symbols of inclusion. We're going to start on the innermost portion of those symbols of inclusion, which would be right here in our parentheses. 8 minus 6 is 2, times 6 is 12, and then outside of that I would have 50 minus 4 times what's inside that bracket. Here you've got 4 times 12. 12 times 2 is 24, and twice that is 48, so 4 times 12 is 48. 50 minus 48 equals 2. Sorry for adjusting the camera. Number 10. Juanita says that the set of whole numbers is closed under addition. Determine whether this statement is true or false. Give a counterexample if the statement is false. Remember, a set of numbers, classified numbers, is closed under an operation if, when you're doing that operation, the answers in the first part of the question are the same as the answers in the actual solution to that question. So we have whole numbers that are being added together. 2 whole numbers added together give us the result of a whole number. Is that true or is that false? Well, let's use a couple examples. 2 is a whole number, plus 2 is 4. That's correct. How about 3 plus 5 is 8? For number 10, we're going to say that that statement is true. Whole numbers is closed under addition. Flipping it over, we're on number 11. Number 11 says a submarine is at 89 feet below the surface of the ocean. If it descends another 42 feet, what will be the position in relation to the surface? Well, if you're 89 feet below, that's already a negative 89, and then you fall even further below. That means that you're going to be increasing that negativity. So you're going to have 2 numbers that are negative 89 plus negative 42 that are added together. If I'm going to add those in terms of their absolute value, I would write it out like this. 89 plus 42, and then make sure that because I have the same sign that's negative, it's going to maintain a negative answer, but we can add the absolute values here. 9 plus 2 is 11, carry the 1. 8 and 4 is 12, and 1 is 13. So negative 131 feet below the surface of the ocean. Number 12 says find the difference 2/7 minus negative 4/7. To subtract a number, add its inverse. To add its inverse means that you're going to change this negative sign to a positive sign, and the inverse of negative 4/7 The opposite of a negative number is a positive number. So you've got 2 sevenths plus 4 sevenths in this case. 2 plus 4 is 6. You would have an answer for number 12 of 6 sevenths. Number 13. Charlie walks a rate of 7,040 yards per hour. How fast does Charlie walk in miles per hour? So here you have to set up a way in which you're going to convert 7,040 yards per hour into miles per hour. Here you've got your conversion rate between what would be yards in a mile. So here's how Mr. Shane would set it up. You've got 7,040 yards per hour. I'm going to multiply that by a conversion rate, and then I'm going to get as my answer miles per hour. Okay? So I need to get rid of yards. That means in the conversion, it says that 1,760 yards is equal to a mile. So if I put 1,760 yards in the denominator here, those yards are going to cancel when we actually have to do this division. Now, in the numerator then, you would have yards in 1 mile. That way, when you've multiplied this out, in the numerator you would have miles, in the denominator you would have hours as your two conversions. Now you've got 7,040 divided by 1,760. Gives you a total of what would be 4 miles. Now notice they set this up to where it was in terms of 1,760 over hours. I like to change it a little bit so that I can convert and change, cross out those items that are in the numerator and denominator across from each other, and then get the right units that I'm looking for as my overall. This would be miles per hour. So it gives you a little bit of a hint here that that's a little misleading because this is actually the better way to set that up. 14. Identify the terms in the expression. The first term is x. The second term, separated by those plus and minus signs, would be y over, in parentheses, z plus 7. And the third term would be 6x over 3z. Number 15. Evaluate 6ab plus 2b plus 7a for a equals 2. If a equals 2 and b equals 2, then I would rewrite it. 6 times 2, b is also 2, times 2 plus 2 times 2 plus 7 times 2, and now we do the math. Well, 6 times 2 is 12, times 2 is 24, 2 times 2 is 4, and 7 times 2 is 14, if I added all those up. Let's write that out in our vertical addition. 24 plus 14 plus 4, 4 plus 4 plus 4 is 12, carry the 1, 1, 2, and 1 is 4, 42 would be our answer for number 15. Number 16, evaluate. 3 times, in parentheses, c plus d squared minus d to the third for c equals 4 and d equals 3. Well, in this case, we're going to plug in these values and rewrite the entire statement. So 3 times c is equal to 4 plus d is equal to 3. That's going to be squared, minus d is equal to 3, and that's going to be cubed. Inside the parentheses, you'd have 4 plus 3, which is 7. 7 squared is 49. 49 times 3. 3 times 9, 9, 18, 27, carry the 2, 3 times 4 is 12, plus 2 is 14, so you'd have on this side 147, minus 3 times 3 times 3, 3 times 3 is 9, times 3 is 27, minus 27, 147 minus 27 gives me a total of 120. In number 17, order negative 0.5, 1 half, 0.7, and negative 3/4 from least to greatest. Least means it's going to be the smallest number. So I'm immediately going to look at my negatives. The two negative values that I have are negative 0.5 and negative 3/4. Now I know that negative 0.5 is actually equal to negative 1 half, and negative 3/4 is actually going to be larger or smaller than that. If I compare these two, when it comes to negative numbers, the larger number that's negative is actually a smaller number because it's further down the number line in that order. So in the correct order, I would have negative 3/4, then I would have negative 0.5. Now I changed them to fractions so you can see those as you compare those. You could also change them to decimals. Negative 3/4 is equal to negative 0.75, and then negative 0.5. You'd be able to tell that obviously that one's smaller in terms of being a larger negative number. Next, you're going to look at your positive values and say, well, which one's bigger? 1/2 is equal to 0.5 and 0.7. You can compare those that way. Or you could say, well, 1/2 is equal, 1/2 as a fraction could be compared to 7/10. 1/2 as a fraction in terms of tenths would be 5/10. Which one's larger? 7/10. So next would come 1/2, and then I would have 0.7 as the final and the greatest number in that sequence. 18. The table shows rainfall from 4 different locations in 2006 and 2007. Which location had the greatest increase in rainfall between 2006 and 2007? Find the difference at each location and compare. So which location? You'd have to find the difference and subtract these. So this would be 47.2 minus 45.6, 40.7 minus 39.9, 39.2 minus 38.6, and 51.3 minus 49.9. You should have a positive number because you're going to be subtracting the second digit from the third digit each time, and all of these are larger than the number before it. As you go through subtracting those, you're going to find that location A actually has the largest difference. 47.2 minus 45.6. You would have to carry here. This turns into a 6, and a 12 is 6, and 5 is 1. 1.6 is actually the largest difference. Location A is correct. Number 19. The volume of a barrel of sand is 18 cubic feet. How many barrels of sand will be needed to fill a container with a volume of 2 cubic yards? A cubic yard equals 27 cubic feet. It gives you a couple blanks down here to fill in, and we want to make sure that we fill those in correctly so that we can calculate this correctly. Here it's talking about feet over yards, and it's 27 cubic feet over 1 yard, so Mr. Shane wrote in 27 over 1. Then it says that 1 barrel of sand is equal to 18 cubic feet. So 1 barrel over 18 cubic feet. You're going to convert those two rates to figure out how many barrels per yard, because we know that we have 2 cubic yards overall. So I would take 27 times 1, 1 times 18, and I'm going to get a problem that looks like this. What's 27 over 18? If I would divide that out, that's actually equal to 1/2, or 1 and 1/2, because 27 goes into 18 one time, and then what's left would be 9 out of 18. So 1 and 9/18 is equal to 1 and 1/2, or 1.5 barrels per 1 yard. If I've got 2 yards, well, 1.5 times 2 would be 3 total barrels. Now there's another way to calculate this. If you've got two yards that are cubed, and there's 27 feet per cubic yard, you could take 2 times 27 and turn that into what would be 54 feet. That's cubed. Now you're going to take and then divide that by 18 cubic feet in 1 barrel of sand. 54 divided by 18 would equal also 3 barrels. So either way that you're doing that, you can get the same answer for both of those problems. In number 20, one day in December, the temperature at 6 a.m. was negative 8 degrees Fahrenheit. By 9 a.m., the temperature has risen 7 degrees. What was the temperature at 9 a.m.? So it was negative 8 to start, and it rose 7 degrees, so plus 7. You're going to find your answer overall if you're going to add these together. Because they have different signs, you're actually going to subtract the absolute values. So you would have 8 minus 7. 8 minus 7 is 1. Because 8 as the absolute value is the larger number, it's going to be maintaining its negative amount, and that's negative 1 degrees Fahrenheit. If it was at negative 8, it came up, it's still at negative 1 degrees. That is your practice test for today. Good luck on your test tomorrow.